It started on the 3rd floor, the ICU, a place always hovering somewhere between life and death. The night was quiet, filled with only the rhythmic beeps and hums of machines keeping people alive. Nurse Alana Davies was on her rounds. She was checking on the patient in room 307, a man we'll call Ben Carter. He'd been admitted for observation, but he was just calm, unnaturally calm. His vitals were so stable they never moved, not by a single point. As she wrote down the impossibly steady numbers, she glanced at the wall behind his bed. And that's when she saw it. Carter's shadow, a perfect dark silhouette cast by the room's single light, started to move. But Carter himself was completely still, the shadow. It ripped itself away from his body, peeling off the wall like old paint from a rotted frame. It stood up, a two-dimensional figure of pure absence, a walking hole in the world. And then it turned. It didn't just fade, it walked. A flat, depthless shape gliding across the wall, over the door frame, and straight out into the hall, where it vanished. Alana just stood there, frozen. The pen dropped from her hand, the clatter on the floor impossibly loud in the sudden, crushing silence. The silent patient. A hospital is supposed to be a place where reality is absolute. It's a world of science, of facts you can observe, where every single heartbeat is tracked and every breath is measured. But what happens when that reality starts to crack? Before the shadow walked, there was the quiet. Ben Carter was the epicenter of a deep, unsettling stillness. He was brought in after causing a scene at a public library, where he just stood on a table, completely motionless, for 3 hours. He didn't speak. He didn't even blink. And in the ICU, that eerie calm continued. His heart rate? A steady 70 beats per minute. Blood pressure? 120/80. Oxygen? 99%. These numbers didn't just hold steady. They were frozen. They never changed. Not when they drew his blood, not when they moved him. Dr. Eris Thorne, the lead physician, knew it was profoundly unnatural. The human body is always in flux. Perfection isn't a sign of health. It's a sign that something is deeply wrong. It wasn't life. It was like a machine, calibrated to perfect settings. A puppet waiting for its strings to be pulled. Dr. Thorne was a man of logic, a skeptic down to his bones. So when a terrified Nurse Davies told him what she saw, a shadow detaching itself from a man and walking through a solid wall, he assumed it was a stress-induced hallucination. He told her to take a break and that he'd check on the patient himself. He was about to leave the room, convinced of his diagnosis of staph fatigue, when he saw something on Carter's monitor. Not the vitals. They were perfect, as always. No, it was a little string of text, pixelated, at the very bottom of the screen. For just a split second, it read, "Audit in progress." The audit begins. Before Dr. Thorne could even be sure of what he saw, the message vanished. He rebooted the machine, thinking it was just a glitch. But as the monitor blinked back to life, showing Carter's impossibly perfect numbers once more, the first alarm went off. Room 301. A patient named Abramson. Code Blue. They rushed the crash cart in, but it was already too late. It wasn't a peaceful death. The man's heart, lungs, liver, and kidneys had all failed at the exact same moment. But it was worse than that. His eyes were wide, frozen in a terror that had no time to form a scream. His skin, pale moments before, was now a sickening mottled purple, and a thin dark fluid was trickling from his nose, his ears, even his tear ducts. It was as if his very substance had started to liquefy and decay in an instant, rotting from the inside out. There was no cascade, no domino effect. It was as if someone had just flipped a switch and turned him off, leaving the corpse to spoil immediately. While they were calling Abramson's time of death, another alarm screamed. Room 302. A patient named Bailey. The team ran, but they already knew what they'd find. The roll call. The scene in room 302 was the same impossible horror. A body that had not just died, but had been revoked. The life inside instantly spoiled, like fruit flash rotting on a vine. A nurse, pale and breathless, pointed to the ICU's central monitoring station. "Doctor," she said, her voice trembling. "Look at the names." Thorne looked at the digital patient list. Abramson, Bailey. A horrifyingly logical pattern was emerging. He felt a wave of sickness. He looked at the next name, Carlson, in room 303. As if on cue, the alarm for room 303 began to shriek its metallic scream. The horror wasn't random, it was systematic. A roll call carried out by some invisible administrative executioner. Carlson, then Delgado, then Evans. Each death was identical, a sudden, total, and grotesque end to all vital functions. The staff fell into a controlled panic, a desperate dance of procedures they knew were pointless. They were soldiers trained to fight death, but this wasn't a battle. It was a liquidation. As the bodies fell, the hospital's digital system started to fall apart too. Monitors flickered, displaying strange, ancient-looking scripts instead of data. Then the main server for the hospital's records sent out a single, network-wide message before crashing completely. It read, "Audit complete. New ledger open." Chaos erupted, but Dr. Thorne's focus was pulled back to the one place where there were no alarms, no chaos. Room 307, the eye of the storm. The Scribe. Dr. Thorne pushed the door to room 307 open. Ben Carter wasn't lying down anymore. He was sitting up, his back perfectly straight, that unnerving, placid look still on his face. The air in the room was thick and vibrated with a hum so low you felt it in your bones. Carter's head turned slowly toward Thorne, and when he spoke, the voice wasn't his. It was a discordant choir of the dead and the unborn, 1,000 voices grinding together inside Thorne's skull, coming from the walls themselves. "The accounting is almost complete," the voices echoed. "The ledger must be balanced." A security guard appeared behind Dr. Thorne, his hand on his weapon. "What the hell is going on?" he stammered. Thorne held up a hand, his fear momentarily pushed aside by a desperate need to understand. "Who are you?" he whispered. Carter's head tilted. "I am the vessel," the voice rumbled. "He is the scribe." The voice spoke of an entity, a celestial recorder, a being of pure, absolute order. Some Jewish mystical texts call this being Metatron, the Archangel who was once the prophet Enoch, an entity that keeps the records of creation, noting the deeds of humanity. Not a demon, not something evil, but something far more terrifying, a cosmic bookkeeper. This world has accrued a debt of mismatched accounts, Carter's voice explained, of lives that were not lived, of breaths that were not taken. He has come not to punish, but to correct, to reconcile the accounts. He is performing an audit of the living. The security guard couldn't process it. He took a step forward. "That's enough crazy talk. You're coming with, you cannot restrain the inevitable," the voice boomed, the force of it pushing the guard back a step. "The correction is already made. The final entry is all that remains." The deletion. More security guards arrived, shattering the chilling sermon. They saw a disturbed patient and moved in to restrain him. Carter offered no resistance, his eyes never leaving Dr. Thorne. As they strapped his wrists down, he leaned forward, and the chorus of voices dropped to a single, terrifying whisper that only Thorne could hear. "Stop resisting, he is rewriting your breath." As the last strap was buckled, everything changed. The hum stopped. The air went frigid. Carter's body went rigid. His eyes blazed with a brilliant white light. He took one final, shuddering breath, a gasp that seemed to pull all the sound and warmth out of the room. And then, his chest inverted. Ribs snapped with a wet, cracking sound, folding inward as if a fist had clenched in the center of the man's torso. His limbs followed, joints dislocating with sickening pops as they were pulled toward the imploding singularity in his chest. Skin and muscle stretched like rubber, tearing as his arms and legs were grotesquely suctioned into the vortex. His head was the last to go, jaw unhinging as a silent scream was pulled from his lungs, followed by a blinding eruption of light from his eyes and mouth. For 1 second, his entire body was a point of unbearable white light. Then, it was over. The light vanished. The man known as Ben Carter was gone. The bed was empty. The restraints lay on the mattress, still buckled, holding nothing. He had not died. He had been uncreated. The Unwritten. Less than 3 days later, St. Jude's Metropolitan Hospital was evacuated and closed for good, citing a catastrophic HVAC failure. It was a clean story, plausible. Ben Carter's paper chart was found blank. His electronic file was gone. All admission records, all security logs of his arrival wiped clean. It wasn't just that the man was gone. The proof of the man was gone too. Dr. Thorne was ruined. His life's work destroyed by a truth no one would ever believe. Nurse Alana Davies was put on medical leave for severe PTSD. Her family reported her missing 2 weeks later, but they say one piece of evidence survived: a single, grainy security clip from the ICU hallway. It's silent, but it shows it all. The impossible moment a shadow peels itself from a wall and glides away. The beginning of the audit. Ancient mystics tell stories of Metatron, the Scribe of God, who records every event in the universe. What if that book isn't just a record? What if it's the source code for reality itself? Lives aren't lived, but written. And what is written can apparently be erased. The audit at St. Jude's is over. But is the ledger truly closed? Or is the scribe still out there, pen in hand, looking for other errors to correct, other breaths to rewrite? What do you think really happened to Nurse Davies? And could a cosmic error like this happen again? Let us know your theories in the comments below. And if you want more stories that explore the terrifying cracks in our reality, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell.